Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to break down the reveals from the brand new Into the Spider-Verse trailer, and boy, what a trailer it was. I mean, starting right off with the epic Spider-Man pointing meme. I mean, let's face it, I don't know how they're ever going to top this meme again. We need to just retire the meme with this trailer because you start off with the three of them pointing at each other, and then you move to every one of the variants pointing at each other. Oh my gosh, such an epic rendition of the meme. So yeah, retire it now. We won't top this. And this is just one more indication to me that the movie is going to be epic. These little touches are just such awesome fan service. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. Going to be an amazing movie. All right, so let's dive right in and see what we can find out about the new Into the Spider-Verse trailer. So one thing I want to point out is if you haven't seen the international trailer, you might want to check it out because for the most part it's the same, but the very beginning has some interesting clips, including clips from Tobey's movie, Andrew's movie, and Tom's movie. So they start with Tobey saying sometimes to do what's right, we have to give up the thing we want the most. And then they move to Andrew. Every day I wake up knowing that the more people I try to save, the more enemies I will make. And finally, Tom, this is my chance to prove myself. So while we don't see any of the three of them actually in the trailer itself, this to me is, basically Sony saying, yeah, we are promising you they're going to be in the movie. I mean, it would be crazy to troll us and not have them appear in the movie. Now, maybe they're only in for 5 seconds, maybe only for 5 minutes. But the fact that they're going to be in the Spider-Verse movie basically says the multiverse, the bigger multiverse, includes those 3 Spider-Men, which means the MCU, and the Spider-Verse. Way, way cool. Cannot wait to see what type of crossovers they have in store for us. All right, so we also, in this trailer, did get views of a lot of things we didn't see in the first trailer. For example, we meet Spot, one of the main villains. And yeah, he was as goofy as you expected. I mean, in the comics, he was totally goofy. I mean, really cool power set, really visually interesting, but totally goofy. However, what I love about it is he's perfect for a movie like Spider-Verse. I mean, his portals letting you go, anywhere. I think that's going to be part of the plot. Somehow this is going to tie into the greater Spider-Verse story. So yeah, can't wait. And supposedly he's even going to be a villain in the next movie. So we'll see. Anyway, very exciting. Can't wait to see the Spot in the movie. Also, we met some of the Spider-Man variants that we didn't see in the first trailer, including Spider-Punk. So on the left, we see him in the trailer. On the right, we see him from the comics. And I really loved the way they animated him in the trailer while he's playing his music. He's going to be incredible. Cannot wait to see Spider-Punk. We also got to see Spider-Man India. I don't believe Spider-Man India was in the first trailer either. If so, if either Spider-Punk or Spider-Man India were in the first trailer, let me know in the comments. But I don't think I saw him. Anyway, on the left, we see from the trailer. On the right, from the comics. And I got to say, I love the comic costume. But I'm really digging that costume from the trailer. I might like that even better. It's pretty cool. I think Spider-Man India is going to have a pretty meaty role in the movie, and I'm down for that. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We also got to meet Mayday Parker. So our first look at Mayday Parker. And on the left, from the trailer, on the right from the comics. And I'm going to admit, while I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, read a ton of the comics, I don't know that I've read any comics with Mayday Parker in them. So I don't know. Did we ever meet a young Mayday Parker in the comics? Let me know in the comments if we did, and I apologize for not knowing that. But we're certainly going to get to meet a young Mayday Parker in the movie. That's going to be great. She's going to be an awesome comic relief. Can't wait. Then we got to meet Spider-Horse. Spider-Horse was one of the most interesting of the new variants that we hadn't seen before. So you see Spider-Horse on the left there during the psychologist scene, leading the charge, and on the right in the comics. I did not know there was a Spider-Horse. I'm just going to be honest. And darn it, we better get Spider-Ham. I mean, I'm fine that we got Spider-Horse, but we got Spider-Ham in the first movie. We better get him in the second movie or I'm not going to be happy. All right. Still, though, in the trailer, we have not yet seen Silk. Unless I missed her, I didn't see Silk. And supposedly, Silk's going to be in the movie. So hopefully that'll happen, hopefully in the next trailer. And then we still didn't see the Japanese Spider-Man, Sabuter-Man. So if you are anxious to learn more about the Japanese Spider-Man, you can check out more about him in the Marvel 616 series on Disney+. It's great. It's episode 1 and really covers the history of it. And I found it fascinating. It's really good stuff. Now, I'm not going to break down the other Spider-Man that we see in the trailer because I did that in my first video, which I will include a link to. And I don't think there's any that I didn't cover either in this video or in that first one. However, if you feel like I should do another one, I'm more than happy to. But because I covered it so thoroughly, I just thought I won't do it now because I really want to focus on this 616 that we're staring right at, right? Why is that important? I mean, obviously, Kevin Feige seems to think the MCU is 616. Why is that so important? Well, because pretty much Sony said, no, actually, it's 199999. Or, as Spider-Man 2099 likes to say, 199999, which I like that. That's easier to say. So we're going to go with that. There's a line when he says, and don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 199999. Man, there is so much in this sentence to unpack. So let's start with the first part, the Doctor Strange and the little nerd. I mean, that's basically, canonizing that the Spider-Verse is aware of the MCU because there's no way they're not talking about No Way Home. I mean, if Sony isn't talking about No Way Home and they're trolling us this hard, I'm going to be really annoyed, but I can't imagine. So yeah, that's cool. That means we may get a crossover during Secret Wars with the Spider-Verse. Remember, the next Spider-Verse movie is Beyond the Spider-Verse, and what's more beyond than Secret Wars, right? But you got to wonder, where does the TVA factor into this? Is the TVA aware of Spider-Man 2099 and the fact that he can cross the multiverse? Interesting. Very interesting. So, lot to unpack there and a lot to learn in the future. But what I do think is interesting, if you go back and you look at the trailer, you'll notice that everyone is wearing armbands. And these armbands, I think, are what lets them traverse the multiverse. And in a way, that is similar to what we saw in Endgame, where they had the GPS tracking units that let them get back to their home universe again after they traveled through the quantum realm. So yeah, I really do think we're going to see a crossover between the Spider-Verse and Secret Wars down the road. They're tying stuff together very well, very well. Also, I do think it's interesting if we look at this artist rendition of an amusement park ride that's basically inspired by the Secret Wars movie. There's a lot to learn here. Now, first of all, notice in the middle, that's King Thanos they're fighting, not Kang. So don't worry about that. But more importantly, if you're wondering to yourself, well, are we going to see animated stuff and live action all in the same movie? How's this going to work? All I know is in this artist rendition of the ride, look over on the left there, and you see Spider-Man Freshman Year, which, by the way, we still don't have yet. Come on, give us Spider-Man Freshman Year. And by the way, we also see the What If rendition there of Captain America's uniform or body armor. So yeah, interesting, right? And granted, this is just for the amusement park ride, which I can't wait to ride this ride. It's going to be awesome. But I do think this is Feige telling us, hey, it's all connected. It's all connected. So yeah, we could definitely see the Spider-Verse movies and the Secret Wars somehow tying together. Unbelievable. That would be incredible. But let's go back to this quote again. So we talked about the No Way Home stuff. How about this Earth 1999-99? Why do we now have Sony calling the MCU 1999-99? Well, the MCU has seemed to designate itself 616, going all the way back to Thor the Dark World. Phase 2. On the chalkboard, Dr. Selvig, when he was kind of nutso and throwing all this stuff on the chalkboard, does throw out the 616 universe. Now, granted, you could write this off as the ravings of a madman, because he didn't necessarily say our universe is 616. He just put it on the board. But I just want to point out, there have been Easter eggs about 616 way back to Thor the Dark World. Then, of course, Mysterio in Far From Home mentions the MCU is Earth Dimension 616, and he's from Earth 833. Now, it's worth noting, this movie was produced by Sony. So yeah, you could blame Sony for some of this confusion because they're the ones that made it 616, and now they're saying it's 1999-99. Come on, Sony, stop it. Stop it. Now, you could also write this off, though, and go, Mysterio was just making stuff up. He was BS, and he didn't know what he was talking about. Okay, sure. But then, of course, you get Loki. And in Loki, if you pause when when the TVA is showing Loki the story of his life, there on the video, ETH 616, Loki Lofferson. So the TVA seems to think the MCU is 616, because they're talking about his specific universe. And then, of course, you get Multiverse of Madness, which obviously just totally throws down the gauntlet and says, yeah, our universe is 838, Christine says, and we've designated yours 616. Now, it is worth noting, that's interesting terminology. She says designated yours 616. So you could argue that really designations are, under the purview of the people that are designating. So I guess you could say Spider-Man 2099 wants to designate the Earth as a different designation, or the universe as a different designation than Christine wants to. I guess, yeah, it's still confusing. Why do that to us? But it is worth noting that wording, designated, interesting. So, okay, why then is this so important? So Feige seems to think the MCU is 616. That's four times that it's been called that. Well, if we look at the 2008 Handbook of the Marvel Universe, which was created by Marvel Comics, not the MCU, not the movies, but still, the 2008 edition of that has all of the different universes. Oh my gosh, did not know there were so many. Wow. But then down in the lower right-hand corner, we see, and if your eyes are like mine, let's expand it. We see Earth 1999-99 is the designation given to the Iron Man movie, which of course came out in 2008. So you could argue, the comics at least, threw down the gauntlet and said, hey, MCU, you're 1999-99. And they said it right at the beginning of the MCU, 2008. So then why a couple years later Feige started using 616 is beyond me. But, okay, let's talk about this 616. Where did that come from? This is really interesting. Okay, so the 616 designation, as well as the multiverse itself, originated from 1983's comic The Daredevils. Now, this heavily featured Captain Britain, and in fact came out in England. You can see the pricing structure in the upper left-hand corner there with the VAT. That's a special tax in Britain. But yeah, this was the origin of the multiverse. So let's look at some of the dialogue in here and we'll see the Earth designations. Notice there's Earth 238, Earth 523, and Earth 920. And then a little later on, we get our friend Earth 616. So I'll expand that. Problems arose when Captain Britain of Earth 616 arrived unexpectedly. Captain Britain will later testify to this effect. So wow. Just crazy to think that a concept as earth-shatteringly important as the multiverse, as well as the 616 designation, originated in a Captain Britain comic. Pretty wild. And I'm assuming Marvel Comics was okay with all this because they eventually adopted it all. But yeah, boy, they get a lot of credit for creating the multiverse. But let's look a little bit more about why they chose 616. So the creators, in an interview, said that 616 is an alternate and some say older sign of the beast, 666. Yikes. It has some basis in Greek numerology, but I don't recall the details. Although credited to Alan Moore, like much of the other Captain Britain folklore, it was in place before he joined the book. Dave Thorpe, who wasn't a fan of modern superhero genre, was responsible for most of the more madcap or satirical elements, such as recording his opinion of the Marvel Universe with the designation of 616. Yikes. So basically, it wasn't a compliment. Oh, but it gets worse. 616 was the worst of the parallel Earths that was holding back the others from achieving the shift forward to the next evolutionary stage, which is why Saturnin turned up to administer the evolutionary fluid to its population. 666, the number of the beast. It would have been too obvious to use that. I chose 616, which is 666 minus 50. Why 50? It's a nice round number, but the school in the world's coldest town in Siberia closes when the temperature reaches negative 61.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It's an extreme tipping point. Wow. So it does make you wonder why everyone is fighting to hold on to this 616 designation. It wasn't really meant as a compliment. Fascinating. Fascinating. But you do got to wonder, where are we now, right? Because we saw in the trailer Earth 199999. That was the reference to the MCU versus Feige in all those different places, 4 different places, seems to say it's 616. But can we really trust that Sony knows what they're talking about? I mean, remember, in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, it implied that Peter B. Parker was from E616, which would be the comic universe or the MCU. I don't know which, right? Who knows at this point what they were talking about, but really, Peter B. Parker doesn't come from either of those. So once again, Sony's the one messing up. Sony's the one confusing everyone. So before we trust that now suddenly they're fixing this reference from the first movie with the 1999-99, keep in mind, Sony gets confused a lot. Remember, Sony gave us this, right? This was Sony 8 years later. Oi. I mean, I'm sure you know what this is, but for the few that don't, you can check out my other videos where I've talked about how, from a timeline standpoint, this is the most wrong, terrible graphic ever released in a Marvel movie. Should be 4 years later is the bottom line. But that's not all. Remember, Sony gave us this, the worst end credit scene in the history of mankind. But I think a bunch of us guys like us should team up. Oh, man. This was from Morbius, in case you didn't know. But, oh, man, come on. Why are we now trusting Sony to tell us what the MCU's designation is? I'm going to say Sony has not had a good track record in understanding anything, let alone their own movies. Certainly not the MCU as a whole. But here's the bottom line. When somebody asks me, hey, what do you think? Do you think the MCU is 616 or 1999-99? I respond with this meme from the Team Thor one-shot. No amount of money is going to get me to join in your little contest. Yeah, it's not worth it to me. It's not worth it. I mean, yes, it's important. As a guy that totally gets into timelines, I know that details are important. But you know what? If Feige tells me it's 616, then I don't care that it's 616 in the comics and in the MCU. I don't care. And am I going to trust Sony? Oh, no. I need it signed by Feige before I'm trusting anything Sony puts out. All right, so there you go. That's the video. The awesome trailer into the Spider-Verse. Going to be amazing. Also, I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but we do have a Discord server if you'd like to join the conversation. In fact, we were talking about doing this very video in the Discord server earlier tonight. So I will leave a pinned comment with a link to and that's an invitation to the server. We have people from all around the globe. So there's conversations in all time zones. It's amazing. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-expanding Spider-Verse.